there is a culture of secrecy and cover-up at the heart of this dysfunctional and incompetent SNP government. The dodgy deal with Liberty Steel, the ferry fiasco, the symbolic deposit return scheme, even heartbreaking tragedies at the Queen Elizabeth, all shrouded in secrecy. But incompetence has consequences, whether it's hidden from view or not. Freedom of information laws are one of the last defences against SNP cover-up, but ministers are riding roughshod over these laws. But new data we are publishing today shows the number of FOI requests the Scottish Government has passed on to ministers for approval has risen fivefold. And once a case goes to ministers to sign off or to cover up, waiting times double, with 1 in every 6 FOI breaching legally binding response times. So can I ask the First Minister, what's he got to hide?
First Minister.
There is nothing to hide, and it is a sign of, I think, increasing desperation that Anas Sarwar is relying on insinuation, relying on trying to throw as much mud as he possibly can to hope that things stick, taking that scattergun approach. But actually, of course, this government has a very good record when it comes to responding to freedom of information. We are one of the governments that has the most ambitious targets on these islands when it comes to, of course, responding to FOI legislation. Yes, there have undoubtedly been challenges. I was questioned on this issue at the last conveners group committee meeting yesterday. I responded by saying I'm more than happy to review and to look at, to investigate what further the Scottish Government can do to ensure that we are the most transparent government on these islands. That is what we will seek to do.
Thank you,
and what
members.
I would say to Anas Sarwar, there is, of course, legitimately a reason why ministers may have to sign off on freedom of information requests. I've made it very clear to our Cabinet Secretaries, to ministers, that when those approvals come up, that they should be, of course, signed off with urgency and with pace. And what I would say, Anas Sarwar, of course, mentioned Ferguson Shipyard. In relation to transparency, of course, the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary, came at the earliest opportunity. As soon as that written authority was provided, he came at the first opportunity, took questions, made sure he answered those questions. That, presiding officer, is not hiding away. That is transparency in action.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding officer, he says he's transparently hopeless, is what people will see right across the country. Because what we pointed to was facts, and what he should do is listen to his own Information Commissioner. Because, presiding officer, the SNP despise transparency. At every turn, they cover up failure, and instead of confronting it. No answers on what is going to happen to their shambolic deposit return scheme. No answers on the ferry fiasco, despite years of delays and millions of pounds overspent. No answers for families bereaved by the scandal at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. And bullying investigations kept secret. Now, I asked the last First Minister to share the outcome of Fergus Ewing's bullying investigation, and she said it was legally impossible. But Humza Yousaf has now suggested he's had a change of heart. Why? Because the politician in question has the audacity to question the SNP leadership. So can I ask the First Minister tell me, does he believe in transparency every day, or just when he desperately needs it to try and intimidate his critics?
First Minister.
Desperate stuff, presiding officer. As I said, when Anas Sarwar, somebody who has lots of style but no substance, comes to this chamber and demands we take action, when he demands we take action, but has no facts to back it up, that's when you know how desperate Anas Sarwar really is, presiding officer. So let me give him some of the facts that were missing, of course, from his question. Here are some of the facts. Scotland has been a member of the Open Government Partnership since 2016. In 2022, last year, we handled more than 4,500 freedom of information requests, and 86%, more than 8 out of 10 of those responses came within 20 working days. We want to do more. I think we should try to see if we can improve that rate of response where we can. And on DRS, which is incredible, it now seems that Anas Sarwar is taking the side of the Cabinet's man in Scotland. He is taking the side of the party that is determined to undermine devolution. Anas Sarwar, so desperate to attack the SNP, he's siding with the party that opposed the creation of the Scottish Parliament in the first place, presiding officer. And when it comes to the question he asked in relation to ministerial complaints, my view has not changed from my predecessor. She was absolutely right. We have an obligation in government to, of course, ensure we take legal advice where appropriate and to make sure that we adhere to that legal advice when it comes to any issue, including complaints around former ministers. So I will continue to make sure I take that responsible approach, but of course I will also continue to make sure we do everything we can as a government to be as open and transparent as we possibly can.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding officer, we now have a no style and no substance First Minister and leader of the SNP, and actually we're taking the side of Scottish businesses and Scottish jobs, and perhaps he should listen to the consequences that he's imposing on people.
Mr. Sarwar, sorry, I can hardly hear here. Those who are gathered here to witness this session in action, I'm sure they would like to hear too. So let's just keep the noise down, shall we, while members are on their feet. Mr. Sarwar.
It's okay, presiding officer. The strategy is going really well. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's working really well for you. The SNP are taking Scots for a ride, and we don't even get the luxury of enjoying the camper van. FOI laws are flouted, dissent is suppressed, and problems are swept under the carpet. This is a dysfunctional, incompetent and sleaze-ridden government failing on the basics. And this has consequences. An NHS at breaking point and a cost-of-living crisis spiralling out of control. A party in chaos, distracted from the day job. Finances under police investigation, a former council leader under police investigation, the last chief executive arrested, the last treasurer arrested, offices raided and police tents in gardens. So I have two questions for the First Minister. He says he is transparent. So can he tell us how many police investigations are ongoing into the activities of his party and his government? And secondly, when will he finally end the rotten culture of secrecy and incompetence at the heart of this SNP government?
First Minister.
You know, I tend to think it's best for politicians to leave these verdicts to the people of Scotland. And of course, they have chosen the SNP time and time again to lead this Scottish government. And I saw Anas Sarwar celebrating polls that once again put the Labour Party in second place, celebrating being a loser. That sums up Anas Sarwar and the Scottish Labour Party pretty well, presiding officer. Anas Sarwar said when it came to DRS, he is on the side of business. Can I remind him that many people in business, many of our business organisations, want the DRS progressed? None less, of course, than AG Bar, the producers of Scotland's national drink, Iron Brew, Coca-Cola. Many organisations, many business organisations want, of course, the DRS to go ahead because, of course, they see the value in protecting our environment, and that's what DRS will do. But incredibly, just to take a pop at the SNP, Anas Sarwar sides with the Tories. It's not the only place, presiding officer, where he sided with the Tories, because if you want to talk about business, we know one of the biggest shocks to the economy has been because of that hard Brexit that has been imposed upon us by the Conservative government. And of course, Keir Starmer's Labour Party have become born-again Brexiteers. The Labour Party is doing damage and will do damage to our economy because of their hard Brexit stance. And the only way Scotland escapes the born-again Brexiteers, be they be Tories, be they be the Labour Party, is by having the full powers of an independent nation, presiding officer.